Hello everyone, and welcome back to Business Newsletter Recap. I'm your host, Nathan Pohl, digital marketer for the Tommy's Express Car Wash franchise by day and business nerd by night. We've got episode 8 on deck today with some fantastic tips on business growth, getting more customers in your sales and marketing funnel using psychology, and identifying new market opportunities. If you are new to the show, the goal is to bring you the highlights of some of the top business newsletters out there in podcast format, so you can get actionable takeaways to improve your business in just 15 minutes, or 10 if you want to make me sound like I took a few espresso shots. Each episode will feature specific editions of 3 newsletters that I found insightful. If any newsletter is particularly beneficial to you, I will have links in the show notes to follow the creators on social media and to sign up for the newsletter for yourself. We're starting off today with a selection from Growth Spurt, the newsletter written by Growth Assistant. Growth Assistant was co-founded by Adriane Schwager and Pujji, who also writes the Bootstrapped Giants newsletter we've covered in previous episodes. They place overseas marketers in companies and agencies to help provide more flexibility and growth, and they've grown at a rapid pace. Adriane is the current CEO, and she does an awesome job documenting the company's progress on social media, as well as sharing a lot of tips from her experience. So like Jessie, she is a fantastic follow. Today's edition looks at growth tips from Doordash's head of growth, Andy Wells. Doordash, one of Growth Assistant's clients, has grown now to $9 billion in revenue. But that's not what things looked like when Andy showed up. They were in third place in market share in the food delivery boom, and their growth was stalling. The GA team recounts how Doordash faced issues that can be common with high-growth startups. Customer acquisition costs from running hundreds of thousands of dollars in direct response ads were inflating faster than Doordash was adding revenue, making the path to profitability bleak. When Andy got there, though, he was quick to make effective changes. He shifted his marketing team to focusing not on individual channels like Facebook ads, but on broad growth categories like acquisition, retention, and merchant partnerships. The team had been hyper-focused on their own channels, always looking at incremental changes they could make on Google ads or Facebook ads at the expense of whole company growth. They also refocused a lot of resources on getting the product right and ensuring they were getting organic traction before spending so much on paid advertising. Andy reminds us that paid ads amplify great products, but only compound problems if you don't have product market fit. All of these changes helped propel Doordash to grab 67% market share in the food delivery industry. Jessie and the Growth Assistant team then shared their takeaways from interviewing Andy, and I loved a few of their practical tips. The first is to make sure that your teams are aligned towards company goals and not individual channels. This is especially true for small businesses with just a few employees. You might not have the budget for a whole growth marketing team like Doordash did, so you need to make sure that any work you're doing, or individuals or agencies you bring on, don't just know the channel, but know your business goals and how they can work towards them. The same thing goes for your marketing campaigns. Their second tip is to make sure that whatever marketing initiatives you run have a business objective in mind. Don't just spray and pray for organic social media posts, much less paid ads. Make sure you can measure success and you have an idea of what success looks like before having anyone run anything. And finally, relentlessly focus on retention and customer experience. If you don't have product market fit, company growth will be extremely difficult. The Growth Assistant team suggests implementing Net Promoter Score surveys, reviews, and plain old talking to customers about what they like and dislike about their experience to find ways to improve your services and make sure you are marketing things that people actually want. They had a few other takeaways that we don't have time to unpack, so be sure to check the show notes for the link to the full interview with Andy Wells that the newsletter is based off of. And be sure to follow Growth Assistant and sign up for their newsletter for yourself. Hey, I want to introduce you to today's sponsor, Unicorn Flames. They're a startup studio focused on helping solopreneurs and small founder-led teams grow through marketing and operations. I've had the pleasure of working for their founder, Tim Haynes, and he is a fantastic marketer and ideator. He also knows a lot of cool people that you will want to meet if you are growing your business or side hustle. If you're an early-stage entrepreneur or have a business idea up your sleeve, send Tim a message on LinkedIn or message me and I'd be happy to introduce you. You can learn more at unicornflames.com. Again, that's unicornflames.com. I'll have a link in the show notes for you. Now, back to the show. Our second newsletter of the day comes from Tom Orbach, who writes Tom's Marketing Ideas. He's the head of growth marketing at Wiz, a startup in the cybersecurity space, named one of LinkedIn's top startups in the world. Tom also recently got his newsletter site to rank #1 in Google for the term marketing ideas, which is insane. So to say that his marketing ideas are pretty good would be an understatement. His edition that instantly caught my eye highlighted how Wikipedia raised millions of dollars by turning no's into not yets. If you go to a lot of websites nowadays, you'll see pop-ups that ask you to sign up for their newsletter or enter your email to get 10% off or something like that. If you're like me, I generally close out pretty fast. But you may notice the language in these pop-ups. They might read, "Want 10% off?" with a yes and a maybe later option. Maybe later is an interesting psychological hack that allows consumers to subconsciously be more open to actually consider the same offer later. Now that you know this, you'll see it all the time. But Tom points out that this is really not doing much for the company itself, even though they're using a good psychological principle. For the majority of companies, he points out that when you click maybe later on a pop-up like this, nothing happens. There might not be another opportunity for them to give their email again, and if there is, it will be long enough in the future that they probably forgot they said maybe later at all. That's why what Wikipedia did actually gets the full effect out of this psychological principle. We are all familiar with Wikipedia's annual fundraising campaign, where they have a giant red banner stating that they are privately funded and will shut down if they don't raise enough money. It's been around forever, but Tom points out a recent addition to this fundraising campaign. They utilized the maybe later language instead of a no on their donation pop-up, but they actually took it one step further. When someone clicked maybe later, it actually had a pop-up to collect their email with a message that read, "We'll send you a reminder later so you can get back to reading." Tom applauds this tactic to immediately capitalize on someone's subconscious commitment to reconsider their no. If someone is truly open to reconsidering, they will give you their contact info. And yeses are amazing, but getting the chance to retarget people by their own choice is the second best outcome you could ask for. It's tactics like this that helped Wikipedia raise $169 million last year. Computer updates are also heavy users of this principle. When you get a pop-up to update your software on your computer, you never have the option to just close it out. You either say yes and start the update immediately, or you say remind me later, and you have to physically choose a time from a drop-down menu to get reminded later. While they don't need to collect your email the same way that Wikipedia would need to, they are using the same principle of making no's turn to maybe laters by forcing you to reconsider your pseudo no down the road. If you have a website, especially an e-commerce site, chances are you already have a pop-up offering a gated piece of content or a small discount on someone's first purchase in exchange for their email. And if you don't, it's a great way to collect information from people actually interested in buying from you. So you should add one. Tom's tip for instantly upgrading your site are to change the language to close out the pop-up to maybe later, or something similar, but then for that option to trigger an email or phone number capture to remind them later about the offer. He suggests experimenting with how quickly you follow up, but make sure you don't just collect the email and never do anything with it. Tom sends out marketing ideas like this every Friday, so if you found this helpful, I will have a link to sign up for his newsletter in the show notes. The final newsletter of the episode comes from Luke Tengstrom's Sellout newsletter. Luke helps founders run their Google ads stress-free at Minded Studio. He also writes a newsletter focused on helping e-commerce businesses sell out their products, which I really enjoy reading. If you missed episode 4, we covered Luke's Black Friday recap of best-selling tactics, so go back and take a listen if you are in the e-commerce world. Today's feature is his insightful piece on identifying new markets of consumers who are underserved or leaving a particular industry. Luke starts out by pointing out that in most categories, if people slowly leave, the market refocuses on who is left. Of course, plenty of marketing and effort goes into finding customers to join a category, but they are usually based on personas of people who are already customers. That leaves very large markets of people that have left a category with no solution to the problem that they originally joined the category to fix. Luke shares the story of 2 companies that started by exclusively targeting customers who left an industry. The first example is Athletic Brewing, now the 13th largest brewery in America without a single alcoholic drink. They noticed the trend that millennials and Gen Z drinking has dropped by an estimated 10%, a massive reduction for an industry that has been around for centuries. They saw an opportunity to serve people who don't want to drink, but miss the social elements of bars or parties, and people who are simply cutting back on alcohol for health reasons, and turned it into a company making nearly $100 million per year. Luke's other example is Chomps, a protein snack brand that targeted highly health-conscious consumers that were leaving behind traditional Slim Jims. For those on keto, paleo, or Whole30 diets, traditional meat sticks were too heavily processed, so they were able to grow quickly by heavily targeting those dieters with their marketing. You can probably think of several other brands that have had similar success starting up by targeting industry dropouts. Now, there are a few good takeaways from this. First of all, if you are looking for ideas for a startup, finding the markets that have left an industry or product category provide a goldmine of opportunities. But if you already have an established business, there are 2 main takeaways as well. The first is to really understand why your customers leave. Set feedback mechanisms like cancellation surveys, or simply ask during the offboarding process why someone decided not to continue buying from you. There are tons of insights you can gain on your products and services that you might not have thought of. And while some may be leaving your industry entirely, some people may simply feel underserved by your company and be willing to come back if you better aligned your services with their needs. We run a cancellation survey at Tommy's Express, and I find the responses extremely insightful. The second takeaway is the opportunity to come out with complementary product lines. We mentioned earlier how Athletic Brewing offers an entire lineup of non-alcoholic beer, but traditional beer brands like Heineken have released non-alcoholic options as well. Offering another product or service may not be feasible for your business, but if it is, it can be a great way to appeal to a wider audience. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you can find sign-up links and more information about Growth Assistant, Tom's marketing ideas, and Luke Tengstrom in the show notes. I have no affiliation with any of them besides really liking their content. And if you liked this episode, send it to the business nerd in your life and check out our earlier episodes. Like I mentioned, Luke Tengstrom had another great addition back in episode 4 with his top takeaways from Black Friday 2024. If you have a newsletter or business topic that you want to see me highlight in a future episode, please reach out. My contact information is in the show notes, and I would love to hear from you. And finally, if you enjoyed the episode, it's 100% free to leave a rating on Spotify or leave a thumbs up on YouTube or a rating on whatever platform you are listening on right now. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again, as always, for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Business Newsletter Recap Podcast.